Okay, good afternoon or good evening, wherever you be in the world. This is the Ralph Winterrowd Show, coming to you live out of Alaska. Beautiful day in Alaska. Nice and sunny. The leaves are starting to turn 57 degrees. And I am really glad, very honored today to have two guests on, Dr. Judy Wood and Andrew Johnson. We're going to be talking about 911. They are. And giving evidence. I'm going to give their bios here, but the first thing, anybody, there will be no callers during the first hour. And the second hour is, if you have read Dr. Judy Wood's book, I highly recommend you to call in. If you are otherwise, why, the Republic Broadcasting will be screening your call, because we want to try to get the most evidence out to everyone and make the most sense of the 86 minutes or whatever I'm given here on Republic Broadcasting. Dr. Judy Wood is a former professor of mechanical engineering, and she had research interest in experimental stress analysis, structural mechanics, optical methods, deformation analysis. She carries a B.S. in civil engineering, a master MS in electrical or engineering mechanics, applied physics, and she has a Ph.D. in materials engineering science. And I want to welcome you. Are you there, Dr. Judy Wood?
Yes, hello, I'm here.
Great. And then we have Andrew Johnson out of the UK. And he has been assisting Dr. Judy Wood. He is has an engineering degree in computer science, and he's been in this fight. And he has a book out also on his home page, which we'll get to a little later, that complements Dr. Judy Wood's book. Are you there, Andrew?
I'm here.
Okay, well, we go to break, and we'll get back, and we're going to get to it. Hang on. Okay, well, we're back from break here, and we got Dr. Judy Wood from North Carolina or South Carolina, one of those places back there on the East Coast anyway, where Irene sort of went by, and Andrew Johnson from the UK. And Dr. Judy Wood, why don't you lead this off, and let's get to some astounding evidence here of what really happened at 911.
Well, contrary to what most folks think, they're told to collapse, so they think a collapse. The towers, didn't burn up either. They didn't burn up, and they didn't slam down. They turned into dust in midair. But how do we know this? Well, if they slammed to the ground, you'd have a pile of rubble that would be relative to the size of a couple of 110-story buildings, a 47-story building, a 22-story building, and a half of a few other buildings as well. It wasn't there. Not enough rubble was there for that. Also, if it slammed to the ground, Manhattan would have been flooded because the towers are built on bedrock that is about 70 feet below the water table. They're built out in the Hudson River with this dike around the base called a bathtub. And if those towers had fallen down, they would have ruptured the bathtub, and you would have had southern Manhattan flooded through the PATH train tunnels, through the subway tunnels, and so forth. Also, if they'd slammed to the ground would have shaken with a big thud, and it would have been recorded on the seismic charts. About a 20-story building or a 16-story building crashing to the ground is what the seismic chart recorded for the two towers, not a 110-story building. And for Building 7, there really was no significant seismic event outside of background noise. But on the same chart, you could see quarry blasts in Pennsylvania and in New Jersey. So we know the seismic recorder was working, was operational. But there really wasn't a seismic event associated with the demise of Building 7.
And
so it didn't slam to the ground either. Book, so the buildings didn't burn up or slam to the ground. They turned into dust in midair. And dust doesn't make a thud when it hits. Also, if they had slammed to the ground, the stuff in the building needs to go somewhere. Imagine this, if it collapsed down like a pancake, it's going to squirt stuff at it like Mach 1 or Mach 2. Like close to 2,000 miles an hour, it would be squirting stuff out. And it would look like a machine gun had blasted the side of all the buildings surrounding the World Trade Center. That didn't happen. But what we do find is, a few stab wounds here and there, a few beams that went through, jabbed into buildings, but not really above the 18th floor. Nothing way high up. And the adjacent buildings were as high as 60 stories tall. But what we did find is round holes in the windows, sometimes just in the outer pane of a double pane window, leaving the inner pane intact. Cars went into spontaneous combustion up to a half a mile away. Dust went up when the towers were destroyed, blocking out 100% of the sunlight for a period of time. Some cars were turned upside down. There's evidence of levitation. The leaves stayed on the trees. Signposts didn't get destroyed, but the cars in the street were toasted as in their history. You can't repair them. They're done for. And there's a sea of paper around that didn't burn. No evidence of high heat. When the dust cloud rolled out, it left people covered with dust, not burned. I can't hear.
Hold on a minute here. We are getting some noise here from Republic. Just a minute here from the...
Okay. Yeah, so I think all those things really indicate that something very strange happened, and that's essentially what you can prove from looking at the evidence.
Well, I don't want to leave out Alaska. Alaska was part of this too, right?
Oh, yeah. So some of the oddities were even recorded in Alaska, that the Earth's magnetic field coincidentally had shifts that occurred with each of the 5 events. The North Tower got a hole in it, South Tower got a hole in it, South Tower turned into dust, North Tower turned into dust, and then 7 hours later, Building 7 turned into dust. Each of those 5 events, right when they occurred, there was a shift in the Earth's magnetic field. Pretty strange coincidence.
Alaska's a long ways from New York, you think?
Mm-hmm. I couldn't find such wonderful data as I found in Alaska. The magnetic recording stations around the world, but the one in Alaska had the biggest data bank, and it showed this anomaly. So may as well use that one.
So obviously, the controlled demolitions couldn't go 4,000 miles or nukes 4,000 miles away and rattle the magnetic or magnetometers in Alaska. You think?
I don't know how bombs affect magnetometers, but also I don't know how to explain a bomb going off silently and not shaking the ground at all.
Let me ask you this. Is not seismic recordings and that type of technology, that is absolutely, positively well-settled, grounded. There's no doubt about how seismic recordings work and what's going to happen when a certain mass at a certain velocity hit the ground. Is there any doubt in that world?
Not unless gravity gets shut off.
Right.
And it doesn't, and then it wouldn't hit the ground. So if something is hitting the ground, think of on a pool table, billiard balls hitting each other. One pops in the other one takes off. That's an impact. The other one reacts to it because it's gotten hit by the first one. So if you have a building hitting bedrock, it's the same kind of thing, except the bedrock isn't going anywhere. And it gets affected. It gets, like a hammer hitting a tuning fork. That rock has got to be vibrating, and whatever seismic recording stations are picking that up, you would see it.
Let me rephrase it. In a standard controlled demolition, 230,000 tons coming out of Building 7, whether it's cut in 50 pieces or 100 pieces or 1,000 pieces, when it hits planet Earth, the technology of seismic recordings is rock solid, and more than one recording station could not find basically any recording. Is that true?
Correct. And the other ones, you have to use some imagination to see that there's any kind of very slight anomaly from background noise. It wasn't like anything you would expect. It's like somebody's straining to find something anomalous there. If you were just sitting in the seismic recording station, weren't looking for anything on that chart, you wouldn't have seen it.
Well, let me ask you this. Is it not true that any type of a controlled demolition, regardless of the explosive, is excluded or preclusive from ever happening because of the absence of the seismic recordings that would have absolutely been present? Is that true?
If the material slammed to the ground, you would have a seismic recording of it.
Which would happen during a controlled demolition.
Right. Because a conventional controlled demolition doesn't account for turning the building into snowflakes. Snowflakes don't slam to the ground. And what I'm saying, if the building did reach the ground, if you turn it into fine dust, that dust isn't going to make a thud when it hits. But conventional controlled demolitions, what they do is cut off the supports and slam the building to the ground to bust it up. They don't really blow the building up in the air. They drop it down and slam it to the ground because it would take too many explosives, and that's a waste to turn the building into chunks. And explosives turn buildings into chunks, and chunks go flying.
So because
they don't turn into powder.
So because we don't have a controlled demolition, the type of explosives, Simtex, TNT, dynamite, whatever it is automatically precluded from existing, or nanothermite, thermate, whatever.
Yes. Also, the heat excludes it as well. Bombs are associated with heat. And expansion. Mm-hmm. And if you have a large, also the sound, something expanding quickly, you hear it. It has a sound wave. That didn't happen either.
With Building 7.
Correct.
And that's documented. So we have a quiet falling of what appears to be a controlled demolition, but it's absent the seismic recordings when it hits the ground.
Well, when it appears to reach the ground.
Right, appears to reach the ground. Okay.
Because if people didn't hear it, then you start wondering what went on here, because this is something not right. There's a video. There's quite a few video recordings of this, but one in particular I'm remembering. There's someone being interviewed with Building 7 behind them, and while they're standing there talking to the person interviewing them, the Building 7 just starts moving towards the ground. And it's about halfway to the ground when the photographer says, "Whoa, whoa, 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 whoa." He suddenly realizes there's a building dropping behind. Nobody was
hold
aware
that thought. Go finish that up. We've got to go to break. Back in just a minute. Well, we're back from break, and Dr. Judy Wood was telling us about Building 7. Somebody was videotaping and the audio going, and Building 7 was starting to head to the ground. Go ahead and finish your thought there.
And it's starting to head to the ground. I think it was the photographer who noticed that and said, "Whoa, whoa, whoa, whoa." And, he totally caught him by surprise. And the person who the building was in back of, was totally clueless. When things break, whether it's natural or with bombs or whatever, if something suddenly snaps, breaks, an energy release like that is associated with sound. Think of a tree falling over. You hear a snap, crackle, pop, and you get ready to hear a thud as it hits the ground when a tree breaks in the woods. Or, when you have an ice storm, you hear trees snap, and you hear, bang. Sounds almost like a gunshot. Controlled demolitions, you typically hear a bang, 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 bang for a while, and then the building starts moving towards the ground. You don't hear dead silence and have the building start moving to the ground silently. Something's weird there. And with the towers, there were small pop sounds, but there are definitely things on the ground exploding, like Scott packs, the air tanks that the firefighters wear. It makes you wonder what's going on here that would cause an air tank to explode. That's what happens when the pressure inside gets too great, the wall thickness starts to break down. And the building was filled with water tanks every so many floors, because they had to pump the water up to tank after tank to get it to the top. What happens when the water tanks start getting thinner or start deteriorating.